Welcome, everyone. We're going to let everyone spend a couple of seconds here joining us for today's webinar, and then we'll go ahead and get started momentarily. Oh, right. Well, I think we have the majority of today's participants logged on here for this afternoon's webinar. Good afternoon or good morning, I think it still is, to some of our friends calling in on the West Coast. Excited to see so many folks joining us this afternoon for our new webinar topic around ABLE accounts, specifically titled, I Have an ABLE Account Now What? I am Sarah Hart-Weir. I'm a senior advisor with the ABLE Today team and excited to be joined by the Deputy Executive Director of California ABLE, Ann Osborne, to provide today's topic and today's information to each of you about ABLE accounts, and specifically with the goal of how do we maximize ABLE accounts. Just a little bit of information about ABLE Today. We are an initiative of the National Association of State Treasurers, or better known as NAST. And we have some of the best roles and responsibilities around, and that's really to promote ABLE accounts, promote the financial empowerment of people with disabilities, and community inclusion for the disability community as a whole. Our work is generously supported by the Wells Fargo Foundation, which allows myself, my colleagues, Eric, Mark, Brian, and so many of us to be able to provide this information and do the free outreach and awareness that it takes to promote ABLE accounts nationwide. Just a little bit more information, more specifically about the goals and objectives of today's webinar. This is the first time we're pulling together a webinar that covers these topics. It's been a dream come true of mine and Ann's for quite some time now. But we really wanted to center today's presentation around talking about the power of the ABLE program, but the power of ABLE accounts through those individuals and family members and caregivers that may have already opened up an ABLE account. We talk a lot, I should say, about the ins and outs, the ABLE 101 presentation, but we've yet to really dive into those tips, tools, and educational opportunities to really promote and maximize the opportunities ABLE presents for somebody who already has an account. So we'll do, and Ann's going to cover this here momentarily. We'll do some basics about ABLE. We'll give you a quick refresher, but then we really want to dive and spend the time going into those specifics about how do you maximize your ABLE account for the individual, the person with a disability. We're going to talk about how ABLE account holders who are working can maximize opportunities in that regard. And I have my colleague and dear friend, former U.S. Commissioner on Disability, Julie Hawker, here, who's going to lean in to some of her tips as a person with a disability who has an ABLE account and who's working. We'll end with today's presentation on how special needs trusts and ABLE accounts should work together. It should be ABLE accounts versus special needs trusts. We really want to ensure that the information that is getting out to the disability community is centered around how those tools, financial tools, can work together. And then finally, we want to provide more information in this ongoing education to you all day in and day out. So we'll talk about some future opportunities to partner with ABLE Today. Before I turn it over to my colleague and friend Ann from California, just wanted to do a quick reminder on what is ABLE. You know, at Able Today, we really strive to promote that able education to all stakeholders. And we've made a lot of strides since the first Able account opened up in June of 2016. And as you all know, there was a world or there was a time in the disability community when people with disabilities couldn't have more than $2,000. Able changes that. There was a time where people with disabilities couldn't accumulate wealth without putting benefits like Medicaid and SSI in jeopardy. Able changes that trajectory in that landscape. And then there was a time where you were penalized from working and you had to navigate that term that we've all heard so much about over the years is that spend down. And so Anne and several of our ABLE account holders that are joining us here this afternoon for today's webinar are going to talk about how to avoid that spend down and how to utilize your ABLE account as a tool to maximize the potential. Just a quick reminder, you know, ABLE accounts are offered under Section 529 of the tax code. When we worked for many years and many Congresses to make the ABLE Act a reality, we amended Section 529 of the tax code. And ABLE accounts are specifically financial tools that promote savings and spending for people with disabilities. And ABLE accounts allow our community to save money while helping individuals protect that benefit eligibility. And we'll do a quick reminder of those special benefits rules throughout the course of today's presentation. So I've talked long enough. I'm excited to turn it over to Anne, who's going to talk a little bit more about the basics of ABLE from the perspective of somebody who's actually running a program or CalABLE. We're going to give you information that kind of speaks to ABLE in one voice or a nationwide voice. But I think, and what we most wanted to remind our listeners and our attendees is that you've joined over 171,000 individuals in the disability community that have opened up ABLE accounts and have helped us harness that disability economy of $1.92 billion in savings, which is absolutely incredible. So I'm going to stop there, Anne. I'm going to turn it over to you to jump in and carry us forward.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sarah. And as Sarah mentioned, you know, this is just the tip of the iceberg, and here in California, but throughout all of the United States, we just know that these ABLE accounts are just really a game changer for everyone. So we're going to move to the next slide. Next slide. Are you sure? Okay, there we go. Eligibility. So currently right now, as long as you have a disability prior to age 26, you can actually open an ABLE account. Again, that diagnosis must be a long-term, something that's going to last more than 12 months, and it's marked with severe and functional limitations. So we do get a lot of questions about this. How do I know if it's if my diagnosis is eligible? And really the easiest way is if you go to the Social Security Administration's website. They have two publications. One is called the List of Compassionate Allowances, and there's also the Blue Book listing. And if your disability is in either one of those documents and it began before age 26, you can open an ABLE account. If you were to do that, you would want to do that under what we call self-certification, and you would want a physician's letter stating that that's, was your disability. If you are receiving SSI or SSDI, you are automatically eligible. Again, as long as that disability occurred before age 26, you would not need any documentation from a physician. So just to clarify, there are actually two ways you can, be eligible to open these accounts. We'll go to the next slide. So Able Today actually has a great tool on their website. It's a search and compare able programs. And what is nice about these is you can actually look at, what state you may currently reside in, or you may want to look at other different programs. Some able programs, such as California, is a national program, so that you do not have to live in the state of California to open a CalAble account. There are other states that do have able programs that are for their residents. So you want to just look at that to see where you fall. And it's just a great tool for you to really educate yourself, decide what ABLE program is going to work for your financial future. So that's what's nice about that search and compare tool. We also know that there are some state tax incentives. Some states may have a tax incentive for you to open it, but all the money in an ABLE account does grow tax-free. So that is a really nice incentive for everybody that is participating in their ABLE program, that they do get that tax-free growth. We'll go to the next slide. So this is the big question we always get asked throughout all the ABLE programs is, how much money can I put into these accounts? Currently, right now, you can contribute up to $18,000, and this is based on the gift tax exclusion. This we see changing every year. So this year it's 18,000. That's calendar year, January through December. We anticipate it may go up a little bit next year. Again, we don't make that decision. That is something that the IRS does. You see this second number. If you're employed, you can potentially save an additional, it's up to $14,580. That's how much, if you're working, you could contribute that in addition to that $18,000, giving the grand total of the $32,580. So there is a way you can grow these accounts quickly if you are working. The balance limits, I will mention before I mention this, is if you save up to $100,000 in these ABLE accounts, you can still maintain your benefits up to $100,000. Once you go over that amount, then your benefits would no longer be available. So we always like to let people know that these accounts can grow over time. And once they get up to that $100,000 limit, they would need to make a decision on how they would want to spend their money if they want to maintain their benefits. If you're not worried about keeping your benefits, you see this balance limit of between 300,000 and 500,000. Actually, in California, it's 529,000. You can actually contribute up to those different amounts depending on what state you live in. So there is an opportunity to really grow these accounts over time, depending on what your financial goals are. We'll go to the next slide. So ABLE accounts are strictly online accounts. So all the ABLE programs throughout the United States have online accounts. So if you're listening to this presentation first time today, unfortunately, you can't go to your friendly banker that you may want to. You would have to open these online. So again, I would encourage you to go to the ABLE Today website to find out which ABLE program is for your state or which one you're interested in. And then once you decide, then go to those websites and open these accounts. You can open them easily by just sending a check in, or you can actually do electronic transfers where you can link these accounts up to your regular checking account. It's probably the easiest way to do it. That way you can transfer funds between the accounts. You can also, if you're working, you can also set up a payroll deduction. These accounts also have the opportunity for you to create what we call e-gifting links. So if you have a savings goal that you may be saving for, or if you just have family and friends that want to contribute to your money, to your account, this is a great way to do it. We aren't too far away. I know back to school is here. So if you've got anyone going to college, This is a great way you can put money in their Able account, but not too far away are our favorite holidays. So, just keep that in mind for the upcoming season. The last one here is the rollover. If you do currently have a 529 college savings account, you can actually roll that over into into an Able account, and there is no additional penalties. It's just a direct rollover. We'll go to the next slide. So our first person that we're going to talk to is Jennifer Obakame. She's actually from California. She's one of our CalAble ambassadors, and I've had the pleasure of getting to know Jennifer over the years through CalAble. And reason we have our guest speakers here is because I think their stories really tell us what is beneficial for them, how they're using these accounts. And so, Jennifer, I'm just going to ask you a few questions. I did a brief introduction about you, but if you want to just introduce yourself to the audience, that would be great.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Obakame. I am, as Ann just mentioned, a CalAble ambassador. I first learned of CalAble's creation around the end of 2015. Also information on 2014. So I was hoping, please let this come to pass. Please let this come to pass. It came to pass. We had one in California at a certain point in time. I didn't know that California finally had one until a very unfortunate situation ended up with me getting a settlement that I did not want to spend all the way away. Hey, have you heard of CalAble? Said somebody I know. Hopped on. I've been a member ever since. Proud of it, grateful for it. It's a great way to store funds, as I said. If you don't want to spend down all of your money, the ways with which you can use them is so wide. Everything from making sure you have proper clothes, proper food, to a home, a car, travel, which traveling was one of, I guess, the greatest things ever done with the account. But yes, Inglewood, California, Los Angeles kid, 35 years old. And I think that's it for me on this one for right now.
So Jennifer, I know you mentioned that you use it for travel. I just want to clarify here. We always get, asked the question, what are these expenses? And it's really, the expenses are anything that would improve your health, your independence, or quality of life. Those are what are considered qualified disability expenses. And as you mentioned, you pretty much use your CalAble account for any one of those reasons. So is there a favorite feature that you might have with your Able account that that you might want to share with people? Do you transfer money between your accounts? Is that how you access your funds?
Yes, I do usually have it with the transferring either to the Able prepaid card or from my checking account, which makes things handy, absolutely. And then also one of the things I most appreciate is that Able has a gifting account. So various relatives and friends of mine say, well, we know bills are increasing, things aren't getting cheaper. How can I get money to you? Here's the link, gifting in. It's perfect. It helps. Definitely gifting is, I think, my favorite feature of the CalAble account.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think if somebody wanted to open an Able account today, what would you tell them to do?
For anyone who wanted to open today, I would first say great choice. Number one, go to the website, look for where you can sign up to have an account. As I recall, one of the things that happens in order to make sure this is you who's creating the account, you have the choice either as a beneficiary or a representative of a beneficiary. Two small change accounts sent to your actual bank account to ensure this is you, these are your accounts, and this is what we're linking up. I would tell, especially those who I know of who have some understanding of it, definitely look into the investments. I haven't done it myself because I'm not well versed in it, but I think I need to talk to some folks about that. If you have SSI, perfect. There's ways you can go right in on the system to verify your identity and get everything going quickly. Very helpful.
Okay. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for your time today. We're going to go to our next slide. These are, Jennifer mentioned a little bit about investment options, and with CalAble, and well, not just CalAble, but with all the ABLE accounts, there are different investment options that you can select. First one is all the ABLE accounts do have a FDIC insured option. And that's very similar to your regular passport savings. So if you're used to working with that, you can, that option is available. There are some states that do have checking options. So again, you want to look at that ABLE Today comparison tool to see which one would work best for you. The second one is there are different mutual fund options, and these are what we're talking about, the investment options. Again, you want to look at those. They're pretty well tiered. They start from a conservative option to an aggressive growth. So really depending on your financial goals, how you want to manage your money, you can select those different options. The nice thing with these options, with the ABLE accounts, is you're not just tied to one particular option. A lot of these you can diversify. You can put a percentage in one option and a percentage in another option. So you do have that ability to kind of pick and choose how you want to invest your money. You also do have the option to change throughout the year. So again, you want to look at that ABLE Today comparison tool to see, what is available in your particular state or whatever ABLE program you select. So we're going to go to our next slide. And we are going to talk to Julie. Julie, thank you for being with us today. I'm kind of ask you some similar questions. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself to the group today.
Sure. Well, hello everyone, and thank you, Anne and Sarah and everyone. Always excited to come and talk about ABLE. My name is Julie Hocker. I'm here in Washington, D.C. I'm currently serving as a director at Guidehouse, and I work with state and federal clients all across the country on policy and programs related to people with disabilities and rare diseases. And so, as many of you know, prior to joining Guidehouse in 2021, I served as the U.S. Commissioner on Disabilities at HHS, and worked on policies and programs related to community living. So all facets of us living in our communities and enjoying going to school and going to the playgrounds and going to workplaces and places all throughout our communities. And I have to admit that I opened my ABLE account shortly after becoming commissioner on disabilities, not because it was my first opportunity to start thinking about savings, but because it was when I first learned about ABLE accounts and kind of the awesome power and opportunity that they provide to people just like me and to many of you on the call today. So ever since then, I have been an aggressive saver in the Able account and a huge supporter in working to get other people to know more about them and feel confident in opening one up.
So Julie, you talked about saving. So is that your primary use of these accounts is for future savings?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is my primary purpose right now, and I can kind of just paint a little bit of a picture of why. As a person with a significant disability, I work full time, and I think quite a bit about my long-term future. And like most people, I hope to retire and have a great and fun retirement and have a retirement account. But unlike many of my peers without disabilities, including my own brother and sister, I just have to be open and transparent that profile of what retirement may look like and when retirement may begin may look very different than it does for many other people. And a little bit about me: prior to becoming commissioner, I actually worked in asset management for a number of years. So I'm notably comfortable around asset management, in full disclosure. But I realized that some of the milestones for retirement and being able to withdraw from 401ks and IRAs without paying penalties comes at anywhere from 59 and a half to older. And when we look at life expectancy and we're honest about some of those things, and we look at just some health related concerns that are very realistic, I realized that I wanted more flexibility in when I may be able to access some of my savings and investments, and that I may have a real need related to my medical condition changing over time, where I need to access funds to continue to support me and pay for my life and including my medical bills. So, to make a very long story as short as I can, I use it to really think about what an earlier than usual retirement may look like, so that I could think about having similar investments as someone who has an IRA, someone who has multiple vehicles for retirement. But I think of my Able account as having the flexibility of not having a minimum age or at which I can begin to withdraw should I need to. So to me, that's how it's working well. It's a part of my overall investment strategy. But for right now, it's a savings. Although I think in the back of my mind, like many of you probably on the call, we know that large expenses can hit us related to our disability. And so it is comforting to me when I close my eyes at night to know that I also could use the funds that are in my Able account should I have a very large and unexpected expense related to my disability.
Thanks, Julie. And we have heard that through many of our account holders and even one of our other ambassadors, where they were actually able to save money in their Able account to put a down payment on their house, or if they had to get a new accessible van or whatever the need is, that having money in their Able account has really been a lifeline for them, because they're able to do something that they may not have been able to do prior to having an Able account. So thank you so much for that. Do you have a favorite feature? I know you talked about the savings, but is there anything that you just say, this is why I love my CalAble account, and this is why everyone should open their Able account?
Yeah, so I'm not on the CalAble. I'm over in Virginia, I think they're all very, very similar programs. So I'll pick two because I can never pick just one. The first one is it's tax advantage. every year when I go to file my taxes, I'm always I smile a little bit at the opportunity to write off some of what I have put into the Able account, and then watching, of course, my investments grow over time, tax free. Always makes me happy and excited. So really grateful for the opportunity to plan for the very real expenses related to my disability now and in the future in a way that is tax incentivized. The other thing that I would just say, I'm really grateful for the diversity and opportunity of the funds that I can invest in. I take a very long-term look at investing, no surprise. And the opportunity to have a diversified portfolio across a number of holdings is great, because I know that no matter what's going on in the market, I don't need to worry about it because I've got great exposure across a number of asset classes. So I think those are two awesome features that I look at when I check that monthly balance each month.
Well, thank you, Julie, so much for sharing your experience with Able accounts. We're going to move to the next slide. We're going to go ahead and introduce Charles here, and Charles has a little bit of a different story. Charles, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell everyone why you have an Able account.
Great, thank you, Ann. Well, I'm a little different in the fact that I'm not an account holder, but instead a grandparent who is an authorized legal representative. So we opened an account on behalf of and to the benefit of one of our grandchildren named Henry. And so that's how I came into the CalAble universe, is by opening that account for our grandson. And I'm not the account holder, but Henry is, and it's to his benefit and his and it's for his benefit and on behalf of him.
So I know we had talked about when we were talking to you about your story, and that you had set up 529 accounts for all your grandchildren, and really that was what motivated you to move over to Able. You want to share that? I think that's such a great story.
Yeah, I mean, like many grandparents, we've set up college funds when our grandchildren are born, and then we do that early so that those investments and savings can grow. So by the time they reach 18 or college age, they would have a large sum of money that would help them, pay for college expenses and help their parents, pay for the college expenses for the grandchildren. So in this case, Henry is our youngest grandchild, and he was born, we became aware that, he had serious disabilities, and he is autistic and nonverbal with cerebral palsy. And so we began thinking about, so, okay, what does this mean for his college savings fund that we had created? Because we had no idea of what capabilities he would be able to reach or what the future held. But we still felt the need to be able to plan for the long-term advance when he became college age. So that led me to researching on what expenses could be used with a college fund, a 529 fund, which then led me to the National Able Resource Center, which then I learned about Able accounts. And so the benefits of the Able account were enormous. And then from there, I was led to the CalAble program here in California. And specifically, I learned about how we could roll over his existing 529 plan into an Able account, which is a 529A plan. So it was really, really, it was really, empowering to learn that. And it was just so, I was just so elated that we would be able to move that money over into the Able account for all the benefits that have already been espoused on this webinar. So the cool thing about it is the process of doing it was really, really, really easy. His 529 plan that we had was at Charles Schwab, And so the process of rolling over into the CalAble account was simply the process of working with CalAble to fill out the forms, and the CalAble program actually, actually managed the direct transfer from Charles Schwab to CalAble. And so it was all handled automatically from a trustee to trustee account rollover. And the cool thing too is, in the college fund that we had at Charles Schwab, we had, invested in aggressive growth because we had such a long time frame. So when the rollover was accomplished, Charles Schwab actually liquidated the funds to make the transfer rollover to the CalAble account. Now, we are limited in the rollover can't be more than the maximum contribution for that year. So, now it's $18,000. So any other contributions, $18,000 less any other contribution, what's left over is the amount that you could roll over into the ABLE account. So in the case of Henry, it took us several years to effect the rollover. So we did, up to the contribution limit every year, and then did the rollovers to get all those funds over into his account.
Yeah. And I know just recently you said, I know you've been saving long-term for Henry, but I think you had an opportunity to use one of those to break into that account for a qualified disability expense. You want to share that? I think that's a great story you're telling me about.
I mean, from a grandparent perspective, like I said, we're really focused on, the long-term growth to, get him when he turns 18 to, get as much money up there to the $100,000, resource limit, so that he will have options, since we don't know what those options will need to be. But even in the midst of that, we still are able to benefit from, the needs that he has up until that point. And, as other people said, the savings can grow tax-free. So we were invested in very, aggressive growth funds. But we've had several instances where we were able to use the account. One instance is, Henry being nonverbal, we were able to use the ABLE account to invest in some assisted technology so that he could try to learn to communicate through images and sounds on what he wanted us to know. So we've used that for some of that assistive technology. But then I want to share a more emergency need that came up, that due to Henry's cerebral palsy, it's very difficult for him to walk, and his legs are, very tight. And just recently he fell and he landed on his face, and he knocked out a bunch of the teeth in his mouth. And so the ABLE account, we were able to use the ABLE account to pay for the emergency dental work to replace his teeth that knocked out, so that he would have teeth to eat with. So, that's something that we would have never planned for or expected, but that emergency occurred, and then we were able to use the ABLE account as a qualified benefit or expense to get his teeth replaced so that he could chew his food. And that's just two examples of how we have used, his account to date.
Thank you, Charles. I think I'm hearing a common theme between all three of you is that, having that ABLE money accessible when you have emergency situations, I think really is is a lifesaver in the sense that you can take care of whatever needs to happen. And I think Julie talked a little bit about, her future retirement plans, may not be the age that everyone else retires. So just having access to those funds. And I know Jennifer has used her account too, and she's mentioned that today for other medical expenses. So I think just the whole flexibility of having these ABLE accounts really is a benefit to anybody that has a disability. And I always like to just talk about that definition again, because it's just so empowering that you can use these accounts, for anything that improves your health, your independence, and your quality of life. And that, what does that look like is it's so different for every person. But just being able to have the opportunity to use your funds, to really enhance one of those things, I think is just a great asset for everybody. We're going to go to the next slide here. Thank you, Charles, so much. So we're going to talk a little bit how to withdraw your money from your CalAble account. As I mentioned, there are some ABLE programs that you can actually use a checkbook to withdraw money from. Jennifer actually talked about a debit card, and there are different programs that have what we call a prepaid debit card. And what's nice about those is you can just put certain amounts of money on your prepaid debit card. So if you don't want to have full access to all the funds in your ABLE account, if you're going to use this as a money management tool, maybe you have you're an authorized legal representative who's, managing money for your adult child or somebody else. It's a great way for them to learn how to manage money, but then they don't have full access to their account. So, it could be like an allowance, like a $50 allowance, and they can spend it. Or maybe you just don't want to have that much money in your account, but this is a great way for you to access it and be able to use it. Third-party checks is if you are having checks going to maybe a bill payer or something. Again, check the Able Today website. There are different ABLE programs. They may or may not charge fees to have checks written. So again, you want to look at those. And really, I think the easiest one is that bank-to-bank transfer, just really linking your account to your CalAble account to your checking account, and just transferring the funds between the accounts. We'll go to the next slide, please. So this, we talked a little bit about the Special Needs Trust, and really, for all ABLE programs, we really see this as not a one or the other, but actually as a partnership between your Special Needs Trust. We hear a lot about special needs trusts, because with the Special Needs Trust, the trustee manages the account. With the ABLE account, as Henry mentioned, the account owner is the one that owns these accounts. So as you see here on the slide, having an ABLE account, depending on where you live, you can open it. Here in California, it's a minimum to open an account, it's $25. Other states have different limits. So as far as it being less expensive, it is definitely less expensive than opening up a special needs trust, but it's still, they do work together. Again, you are the beneficiary. You're the one that's going to be managing this. You aren't going to be having to consult with a legal consultant on how to do this. The nice thing is, because you are the one managing it, you can choose when you want to withdraw the money and how you want to spend the money. Again, so it really gives you a lot more independence and flexibility. Where we see these accounts really partnering again with the Special Needs Trust is when it comes to rent. Oftentimes you may have to supplement your rent. And if you're pulling from a Special Needs Trust, here in California, a lot of account holders will pull out that money from that Special Needs Trust and use it to supplement. And so because that's not something Special Needs Trust can typically pay for, it's nice that they can move that money into their ABLE account and offset some of those rent costs. So again, we see this as a partnership. We don't see it as a one or the other. We do see it as a partnership. We'll go ahead to the next slide. You know what? I am going to turn this over to you, Sarah, since you are the expert on this. But thank you, Sarah, for letting me talk today about ABLE.
And thank you so much for walking our attendees through the basics on ABLE and some of the tips and tools that we wanted to leave you with. Of course, a special thank you to all of our guest ABLE account holders for sharing their personal stories with us. The last piece that we wanted to talk about before we open it up for some Q&A, and then I think Anne and Maddie are going to join us back here on the screen, is at ABLE today, we do a lot to also educate employers, people with disabilities, caregivers, family members about the opportunities that ABLE provides for more inclusion in the workforce. We've been having an ongoing partnership with SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, to offer more educational materials, more resources, more accessible disability tools for companies to educate their employees about ABLE accounts. So we just wanted to leave this with you all as well for future educational opportunities where we'd be happy to educate your employee resource groups or your business resource groups about ABLE accounts. We'd be happy to work with companies, with your HR teams to ensure that ABLE information is included in the onboarding process. As Anne pointed out, the majority of our ABLE programs already offer direct deposit features, and we'll drop that link in the chat so you can find your state's ABLE direct deposit form and print that off, take that into your employer, and start deducting some of your paycheck into your ABLE account. And finally, if you work for a company or run a small business, or maybe perhaps you are the head of your employee resource group, we'd love to take some of these opportunities one or two steps further and help you design a matching contribution program. We just worked with a wonderful company out of the Pennsylvania area, Pennsylvania, New Jersey area, where their CEO stepped up to offer a 2% match to employees, his over 300 employees who contribute to ABLE accounts as an additional incentive to save more resources into your ABLE accounts. All of this information is on our abletoday.org website at /for-employers. And then we also, as many of you know, provide ongoing webinars related to ABLE accounts in the workplace and how ABLE can be utilized as one of your DEIA tools. So we wanted to leave you that information. And then I think, Anne, Maddie, you're going to come back on and we're going to answer some questions from our guests and attendees.
Sure, sounds good. Hello, everyone. My name is Madeline Handy. I am an outreach specialist with CalABLE. And so we've been going through the Q&A. There have been some really great questions today. And there's been a lot of questions on the contribution limits. So first, I just wanted to clarify that $100,000 cap on ABLE accounts, that is specifically for SSI. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then, Anne, we've also had a lot of questions about ABLE to work. So I was hoping that you could say, what are the requirements for being able to contribute that additional $14,580 to your ABLE account?
So the requirement to participate in ABLE to work is that you're working, but if your employer has a retirement plan, unfortunately, you would not be able to put additional money into your ABLE account if your employer has a retirement plan. So Julie, I know, mentioned that she's working. If her employer has a retirement plan, she's only going to be able to take advantage of the 18,000 contributions and would not be able to add the additional $14,580. But if you're, let's say you're self-employed, or if you're working part-time somewhere, you certainly can add money into your CalAble, into your Able account through the Able to Work feature. So most Able plans have what we call a general contribution feature, which is that $18,000 contribution, where this is where family, friends can all contribute to your Able account. And then for the Able to Work feature, that's where you would put in any earnings that you're making, any income that you're making, then that's where you would want to put those contributions. So that really allows you to maximize your Able account. So you could potentially save up to $32,000 in a calendar year.
Great. Thank you so much for clarifying that for me, Anne. One of the most common questions that we receive is what happens to funds left in an Able account when the account owner passes away?
And that is a question we always get here in California. And so I know this is from on the national level, but really, it really goes into your estate. So however you have your estate set up, I will let you know that if you have a sibling that is eligible for an Able account, that money could automatically be transferred into that sibling's account, and there would not be any additional penalties assigned to that. But I would really encourage everyone to look at what their state's plan is as far as estate taxes and things like that. So if it's part of your estate, then it really depends what the state limits are. Here in California, it pretty much goes into probate. And then, depending on the limits, it could be, just part of the state. If you're not eligible for an Able account and it's going to family members or heirs, then at that time it would be basically treated like an inheritance, and there would be the appropriate taxes applied at that time.
Great, thank you, Anne. How does someone know if something is a qualified disability expense?
Love that question. And that's why I was wanting to just really talk about that definition. Again, it is an expense related to either your health, your independence, or your quality of life. It doesn't have to be all of them. It can just be one of them. And we've heard, several examples of people using it, like Charles used it for his grandson's assistive technology for some dental needs. Julie's used it for just some various activities that she's used it. Jennifer's used it for multiple things. I know she's used it for healthcare. She's used it for vacation. So it really is, again, just looking at that definition and being able to answer the question, does this improve my health, my independence, or quality of life? I had another parent just recently say that they used it for purchasing a humidifier. So really that definition is so broad. Social Security does in their POMS program operating manual has categories. And again, those are just categories, but I always say, just look at that definition. What we like to mention is, what wouldn't qualify as an expense. And it's really, is it anything related to gambling, if it's illegal, or gift giving. So those are the three items we typically mention as far as something that wouldn't qualify. So pretty much anything else, there might be something I've missed, but just really looking at that definition, use it as your guide.
Yeah, and then I also just wanted to comment that when you take the money out for those qualified disability expenses, it is tax and penalty free withdrawals, and then it also will not impact benefits as well. So just wanted to leave that out there. These accounts are really meant to help you save and maintain benefits, but then they're also meant to be usable as well, to take money out, to have that tax-free growth, and then be able to take it out at any time. So thank you so much, Anne. Sarah, I know we have a few more slides, so I think we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Maddie. Thanks for coming on and helping us facilitate the Q&A. I know we had a couple of questions in the chat about the recording for today's webinar. It will be posted and made available on our abletoday.org website on our webinars page, and we will also work to upload a PDF of today's presentation as well. As I mentioned, we have a number of opportunities to partner with Able Today. Please utilize all of our free resources that are available on our website. I'll have Eric or Betty Ann drop that in the chat box so you can all click on it and have it right there available on your computer screen. Please help us spread the word. We obviously are so fortunate to have over 171,000 ABLE account holders. We had 3 of the best ones on this afternoon's webinar. Again, thank you to Jennifer, Charles, and Julie for being willing to share your story and your experiences and how you're maximizing your ABLE account. Please send folks our way. We're happy to answer questions, or if you have state-specific questions, we're happy to put you in touch with Ann's counterparts from all across the country. That's really the power of our ABLE network. And then finally, please request a presentation. We know you are all connected to disability groups, whether nationally, at the regional level or at the local level. Please let us know, and please reach out to us. We'd be happy to join you at a conference or on a webinar, or provide information for your newsletters. We also, my colleague Mark Raymond Jr. and I are honored to host an Able Today podcast. You see a picture there on the right side of your screen of Texas Able and a Texas Able account holder sharing their story at abletoday.org/podcast. We want to hear from you. We'd love to have any one of you join us and share your story on our podcast. I think the last slide will just provide you with my information, my contact information, as well as Ann's. We're available morning, noon, and night to answer questions, right, Ann? Please get in touch with us if you have any further questions. Ann, any last words? We're really grateful again to Julie, Charles, and Jennifer, and Cal Able and our Able Today team, as well as Aspen, for helping facilitate our webinar series today.
I just thank everyone for your time and for your interest. This is how we grow, and we just are very appreciative for everybody spending an hour of their time with us today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all again. We will be seeing you soon, and please let us know if you have any questions, and have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you.